with a 20-minute time limit. Introducing from Waxahachie, Texas, weighing 268 pounds, Dick Murdoch. And from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, weighing 236 pounds, Steve Hall. Referee Joe Tangaro.
Dick Murdoch makes his presence known to Mickey Garagiola. Some complaint with Mickey. Now Murdoch tells Steve Hall to take that and wait a minute until he's ready.
And he is here.
What's he mad at you about, Mick?
When he gets introduced, you don't want nobody else introduced, just him.
Just him. How does he think his opponent will be introduced, I wonder? And his opponent today is Steve Hall, who has quite a bit of work cut out ahead of him, but an arm drag by Hall quickly puts Dick Murdoch on the mat.
I like that little hairdo. Look at the way he's got it combed nice.
Combed real nice. What's because he's in St. Louis?
Yeah, like a little Boy Scout.
With his unfavored promoter, Sam Muchnick.
By all means.
Boy, there's a feud that's lasted for some time. As far as Dick Murdoch is concerned, Sam Muchnick has gone out of his way to do everything to deter, to hold back, to slow down the career of Dick Murdoch. Of course, Murdoch also says, I'll take on anyone. Well, Sam Muchnick has taken him at his word. And that's why Dick Murdoch has a match coming up with Andre the Giant. 465 pounds, 7'4", going head-to-head, 1 against 1 with Dick Murdoch. Of course, Murdoch and Nature Boy Ric Flair recently won an all-in team match from Andre and Rocky Johnson. And Murdoch certainly showed no fear of Andre. He went right in there, tore into Andre, and they had quite a Donnybrook both in and out of the ring, while Flair was managing to pin Rocky Johnson. Murdoch with a side headlock on Steve Hall. Hall tried to pull back Murdoch's chin, but couldn't do it. Murdoch even now is complaining right now about Sam Muchnick. He says, what is this, part of a conspiracy from Muchnick? He wanted to know how come referee Joe Tangaro wouldn't get down and count the shoulders of Steve Hall.
He keeps hollering, where's old man Muchnick? Old man Muchnick. What does he mean, old man Muchnick? About Sam's age?
I'm going to tell Dick Murdoch you said that.
You will, and you and I have, the partnership is gone.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Dick Murdoch may yell, and he may complain, and he may gripe about Sam Muchnick, but he's always willing to come to St. Louis because he knows this is where the very best are. He knows where the #1 promoter in the world is. And you heard Dick Murdoch right there saying, boy, it's good to be back in St. Louis as he pounds on Steve Hall. Murdoch yanks Hall out to the center of the ring. There is one tough customer, Dick Murdoch. They don't come any tougher than Murdoch. Believe me. And he can wrestle. He can get out there. He knows the holds, but his personality is so explosive, so belligerent, so rambunctious. Hall, a good move, catches Murdoch in a head scissors. Murdoch trying to kick his way out of trouble, but Hall has the head gripped too securely. Hall balancing up on one knee, and you can hear the muffled cries of Dick Murdoch. Hall applying extra pressure to the head of Murdoch.
I tell you, this Murdoch can wrestle for 20 minutes and give you a 20-minute commercial at the same time.
He's yelling, talking. That's just the way the guy is. That's no put on from Murdoch. That's the way Dick Murdoch is. He's an outgoing, totally unpredictable, never quiet individual. You just never know what to expect from him. He's unpredictable. Well, one thing you can't predict. More often than not, he's going to win. You look at that record, and he has taken on all the top stars all around the world, and he's scored victories. He is definitely a top contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I'm sure that Andre the Giant recognizes that Murdoch is certainly a threat to Andre's reputation, too, because Murdoch will do anything, absolutely anything, to get a victory over Andre. Knee lift to the stomach by Murdoch. Hard kick to the chest by Murdoch as he pops Steve Hall. Murdoch pounding on the face of Steve Hall. Joe Tangaro cautions Murdoch to keep that hand open. And there goes Steve Hall through the ropes to the apron. And here comes Murdoch outside the ring after Hall. A kick to the chest by Murdoch. He grabs Hall. And Hall slammed into the press table by Murdoch. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Murdoch's learned a few things from Dick the Bruiser, too, and that's a long-running feud as Steve Hall tries to regain his composure outside the ring. Joe Tangaro trying to keep Murdoch back. The crowd begins chanting Bruiser and Andre. Murdoch twists all around, drives an elbow into the throat. An elbow into the throat by Murdoch, who's pounding on Steve Hall.
5 minutes have elapsed, 15 minutes left.
Murdoch again with an elbow to the chest that time of Hall, and Hall is knocked off the apron to the floor as Murdoch is battering Steve Hall. Can you imagine what's going to happen when Murdoch tries those tactics on Andre the Giant? Hall slowly through the ropes, and Murdoch right on top of him, pounding Hall in the head. Murdoch bangs on the head of Steve Hall. Flying mare by Dick Murdoch. Hard stomp to the jaw. Murdoch driving 268 pounds into the head of Steve Hall, and then Murdoch with a chin lock pulls Hall's head back over the knee. Look where Murdoch's knee is, right in the neck, so that Murdoch can apply full pressure as he yanks back on that chin. What misery Steve Hall's in, but Hall throws a punch. Another punch by Hall. Hall's head is off the knee of Murdoch. Hall trying to get up, but Murdoch hangs on with a lot of power, a lot of strength right there. And now Murdoch goes to work on Hall, pounding on the face of Steve Hall. Well, Hall paid for punching Murdoch right there. Look at Murdoch, almost with one arm, shades of King Kong Brody there a little bit. Murdoch lifted Hall so easily. Murdoch dominating the action. Hall whipped to the ropes. Murdoch with an elbow underneath Hall's chin. Murdoch taking time to luxuriate in it right now. He knows he's in command. He hooks Hall's head, setting him up for that standing suplex, the Texas Brainbuster, as Murdoch calls it. Murdoch driving the head backwards into the mat, then Murdoch coming up on top of Hall, and Dick Murdoch runs roughshod over Steve Hall, finishing him off with the Texas Brainbuster, and then some rather harsh words between Joe Tangaro and Dick Murdoch. And you know Joe Tangaro was a very capable wrestler, and he's not too happy with Murdoch's tactics, and he gives Murdoch a very stern warning. Let's hear from Mickey Garagiola.
In 6 minutes and 51 seconds, with the Texas Brainbreaker, the winner, Dick Murdoch.
Dick Murdoch told promoter Sam Muchnick that he would wrestle anyone if it would lead to a crack at the World Heavyweight Championship. So now, Dick, you've taken on as tough an opponent, you're facing as tough an opponent as you could possibly meet in Andre the Giant. Head-to-head, one-on-one. Dick, are you afraid of Andre? Do you have any thoughts going into this battle with Andre?
Hey, let me tell you something. I'm not afraid of a man walking, but I'm not a freak of nature. I'm just a natural, raw-boned, 275-pound, rugged individual from the great state of Texas, not a 7'4", 460-pound freak of nature.
Well, Dick, you sound pretty confident. Let's take a look at just what you might be up against when you meet Andre the Giant. Let's take a look at that now. There's Andre, 7'4", 465 pounds. Dick, you're giving away 200 pounds to him.
Well, you know, Andre the Giant's a big individual. He's the biggest man in the world, but don't you listen to these people. They think finally somebody's going to be able to whip Dick Murdoch. Well, it's not going to be Andre the Giant, because that man he's wrestling is not the caliber of Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch is the #1 contender for the world's crown and going to be the next world's heavyweight.
The crowd obviously seems to disagree about your chances against Andre the Giant, Dick.
Well, let me say one thing. You know, the last time I was at Kiel, you and that conspirator, Sam Muchnick, that so-called wrestling promoter, called in some kind of threat on Bruiser Brody, and he couldn't show up. So I went out and I handily whipped, without even breaking a sweat, Brian St. John. Then I went back in a tag team match and was Ric Flair's tag team partner, and we cleaned Andre the Giant, that so-called Rocky Johnson, around and whipped him. And then you've got to admit it, and everybody that jam-packed that arena's got to admit it, that in the Battle Royal, I single-handed took that old, over-the-hill, old man Dick the Bruiser and threw him like a dart, and he was out. Now, am I telling the truth or not?
That's true, Dick. I can't argue with that. You were on the winning side of the tag match. You did beat St. John, and you did eliminate Dick the Bruiser from the Royal.
And then I picked Andre the Giant up and had him up over my head with these big raw bone arms of mine. And as I had him up, another rat and stooge, Pat O'Connor, and somebody else hit me from behind, and I went over the top rope.
One thing, though, you're eliminating. You know, Andre did win the Royal. Not you. Andre won the Royal.
Certainly he won the Royal is because there wasn't another man left in there when I got eliminated. I am the only man that has ever set foot in this St. Louis, Missouri area that can be considered a man or an athlete, and that's including anybody that plays for a so-called St. Louis Cardinals football team, or the baseball team, or the hockey team, or the basketball team. And you know what happened as soon as I come back here? That gutless Conrad Dobler took off too. Where did he go? To New Orleans or someplace?
Well, Dick, that gets away from the point of Andre the Giant, though. Now, today, you used the Texas Brainbuster to beat a man. Can you get Andre the Giant up in the air like that?
Well, what are these? What are these? Voices, opinions?
Well, what's your opinion?
You sound like a bunch of hired co-sales sitting out there. You don't know what the heck you're talking about. Andre the Giant, if I do get him up, if I do get Andre the Giant up in my Brainbuster, he will hit 10 on the Richter scale in Honolulu, Hawaii. I think it's the biggest earthquake it ever hit. Now, let me lay claim to this. When I beat Andre the Giant, I want Sam Mushnick to ink a contract with me and whoever the world's champion is at that time, and you will definitely, including you, will be calling me the next world's heavyweight wrestling champion.
Dick Murdoch, the man who asked for it, and now he's got it, a showdown with Andre the Giant. We'll be back with another match after this.
The second main event, a one fall with a 15-minute time limit. Introducing from Superior, Wisconsin, weighing 237 pounds, Ted Reynolds. And from Santa Fe, New Mexico, weighing 324 pounds, King Kong Brody.
King Kong Brody opposes Ted Reynolds. And as loud as Dick Murdoch is, I think King Kong Brody might well be able to match him. He was howling all the way from the moment he stepped outside the dressing room door. You could hear him here in the studio about 20 seconds before you could see him. King Kong Brody, 6'6", 324 pounds, against Ted Reynolds. Brody pulls forward on Reynolds' head, now leans into Reynolds, puts Reynolds on the rope. Referee Charles Venator asks for a clean break and gets one from King Kong Brody. A bit of a surprise. And I even heard a few people applauding for Brody. How long do you think this is going to last? Has King Kong Brody turned over a new leaf?
30 seconds.
Boy, you're an optimist. Side headlock by Brody on Ted Reynolds. Reynolds tried to reach up to break Brody's grip, but Brody, a true powerhouse, squeezes the head of Reynolds. You don't understand, there's some bad blood between Brody and Murdoch now. Brody, as you recall, for that All-In Team match, was originally scheduled to be Ric Flair's partner against Andre the Giant and Rocky Johnson. Brody got trapped in Texas by the snowstorm that hit that night. He couldn't make connections. He even drove all the way from San Antonio to Dallas in hopes that he could get a different connection to St. Louis. Couldn't make it. Murdoch had to step in as a substitute, and of course, as you know, Murdoch and Flair won. Brody, though, seems upset that Murdoch stepped in there, and he's very upset that Murdoch's getting all this credit for being part of a winning tag team against Andre the Giant. And of course, you heard Murdoch sounding off, bragging about the fact that he stepped in there, was on the winning team. So right now, there's a little bad blood even between Brody and Murdoch.
Murdoch has really got a fan club going, I'll say that.
Look at Brody. Well, he started to charge off the ropes and then stopped. Yeah, Murdoch has quite a fan club. You're the president, I think, Mick.
I tell you, anybody driving down Lindell and Kings Highway will be wondering what is Harold Copeland booking in the car sound when Murdoch and Brody come walking in the ring here.
You'll hear him, and there goes the rule book as Brody did not break cleanly that time, and with those massive forearms, pounds on Ted Reynolds. Brody, more intent than ever now to prove his medal in St. Louis because of the ill fate that kept him in Texas and away from that big team match. Brody, more determined than ever. He's made it known. He wants anybody, anytime, anywhere to prove he belongs in main events and that he deserves a crack at the World Heavyweight Champion. Look at that, one arm body slam by King Kong Brody. Brody with a hard kick to Reynolds' head. Brody is waiting as Reynolds tries to get up, and then Brody lashes out with a big boot and kicks Reynolds in the head. Flying there by Brody. And then Brody locks Reynolds' head and squeezes it. Brody, a former professional football player, a man who has rapidly gone up in the ranks of professional wrestling. We see a fan waving a banana at King Kong Brody.
I know if King Kong Brody ever goes out of the ring, I don't think that fan's going to be waving that banana too long.
He's waving it from the third row.
I believe that.
Brody squeezing Reynolds' head and then pounds on the forehead of Reynolds. Brody with another vicious kick to Reynolds' head. Brody methodically now smiles at the crowd as he grabs Reynolds and strangles Reynolds over the top rope. Hard forearm smash to the back like a sledgehammer. Brody driving that forearm across Reynolds' back, and Charles Venator scolds Brody for refusing to break and for not breaking cleanly on the ropes. Brody hurls Reynolds across the ring and into the turnbuckles. Reynolds taking a pounding right now from King Kong Brody, and against someone as strong and huge as Brody, you can't afford to take too much punishment. You have to fight back rapidly. Reynolds was practically stuck, impaled on those buckles there, as Brody, oh, what power. He's almost indescribable. He's so huge, so awesome. King Kong Brody. Brody with that forearm into the chest of Reynolds. And there goes Reynolds into the ropes, tumbles to the apron and finally to the floor. Brody trying to get out after Reynolds, but Charles Venator stopped him.
Five minutes have expired, 10 minutes left.
King Kong Brody in a foul mood, trying to make sure that everybody knows he's around, and I'll guarantee you Ted Reynolds knows he's here, because Reynolds is going to have a collection of bruises unmatched in the world of professional sports tomorrow. Brody all over Ted Reynolds. Another smash to the head by Brody. Reynolds sags to his feet, tries to get a hold of Brody, leans into Brody. Reynolds pounds on Brody. Brody just stands there and takes it. Look at Reynolds. He tried to pull Brody out of the corner. Brody wouldn't go. Brody lashes out with a kick to the stomach. Reynolds tried to do something against Brody, but Brody was just unmovable. Did you see that? A drop kick by a man weighing 324 pounds. Brody parallel to the mat. 6 foot into the air. A beautiful drop kick delivered by King Kong Brody. One arm spinning the man. Body slam. Brody to the ropes. Charges into the air. Giant flying knee drop by King Kong Brody. And Reynolds is finished. Brody, incensed, infuriated, wanting to make another impression on St. Louis to prove to you how good he is, that he didn't run out of a match, that it was just bad weather. Brody crushes Ted Reynolds. Here's Mickey.
In 6 minutes and 9 seconds, with a giant knee drop, the winner, King Kong Brody. The final match, most falls to curfew, from New Orleans, Louisiana, weighing 245 pounds, Mike Boyer. And from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, weighing 235 pounds, Brian St. John.
Brian St. John tangles with Mike Boyer. Most falls to curfew. Boyer with a slight weight advantage, about 10 pounds over St. John. Boyer hooks the arm. Nice hip takedown. And then Boyer goes into an arm bar on Brian St. John. It was a nice takedown right there by Mike Boyer. Boyer recently back in action. He'd suffered, as you know, a couple of cracked ribs, but it wasn't very severe. He was only out of action for a little bit, and now back in good shape. St. John trying to come up, but Boyer well over him, legs spread, good balance. St. John, though, gets to his feet. Boyer whips St. John to the ropes. St. John mounts those ropes. St. John leapfrogs over Boyer, and then Boyer gets a trip through the air. Compliments of Brian St. John. And Mike Boyer retreats and takes a long look at Brian St. John. Rather nimble work by St. John. You know that card we were mentioning where Andre the Giant and Rocky Johnson were defeated by Nature Boy Ric Flair and Dick Murdoch as Boyer takes St. John over the hip? That was a sellout, and it was ironic because just 2 days after that was the 30th anniversary of Sam Muchnick's first sellout in St. Louis. First sellout in 1949, and the card was headlined by a match between the late Don Eagle and Buddy Rogers. St. John, nice counter and a hip toss by Brian St. John. The hip worked wonders for Mike Boyer the first 2 times, and then St. John showed Boyer that St. John is just as adept at using his hip to toss an opponent. Boyer goes behind St. John and takes him down, goes behind him, rides him. Boyer trying to pull that arm out. St. John sat out, got away, goes underneath. Fireman's carry by Brian St. John. A little test of fundamental wrestling. And Brian St. John probably got a bit the better of it. Well, the takedown certainly belonged to Boyer, and he did manage to ride St. John for a little bit.
15 minutes left.
15 minutes remain. It's most falls to curfew. Whichever grappler has the most falls to its credit when time expires will be the winner. Boyer with a wrist lock on Brian St. John. You know, I looked at this packed house here in the KPLR studio. Reminds me that you really should come down and join us in person sometime for Wrestling at the Chase. Tickets can be obtained very simply just by sending a self-addressed stamped envelope to Wrestling Tickets, KPLR TV, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. There must be a self-addressed stamped envelope with sufficient postage or you will not get any tickets. And also, be patient. The demand for tickets is huge, almost unbelievable, so it's going to take some time before you receive tickets, but they will be sent as soon as possible. Keep in mind that seating for Wrestling at the Chase is first come, first served until capacity is reached. Plus, due to limited space here in the studio, KPLR has reluctantly restricted attendance for the television cards only to those 16 years of age or older. Of course, there are no age requirements for Kiel Auditorium programs. Send for tickets to Wrestling at the Chase today. The address again, Wrestling Tickets, KPLR TV, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Be sure to include a self-addressed stamped envelope with enough postage. Flying tackle by Brian St. John. Side headlock, St. John in command. Mike Boyer on the mat and trapped in the side headlock of Brian St. John. Boyer tries to put some pressure against St. John's head to pull Brian backwards. Doesn't seem to be doing him a whole lot of good, though, and referee Joe Tangaro in there carefully keeping an eye on the shoulders of Boyer, making sure that Boyer doesn't put both shoulders on the mat, and then, of course, Tangaro would have a count for a pin. It's been known to happen. A wrestler's so concerned with trying to escape a hold that he puts his own shoulders down and may miss a count. And once in a great while, it happens very rarely, but it does happen. A man may be counted down, I guess what could best be called a flash pin. Boyer complaining to Joe Tangaro that St. John pulled hair. Tangaro saw it, he knows better, and he's ignoring Mike Boyer.
He's right on top of the play, I'll tell you that.
Gets any closer, St. John will put the headlock on him. Boyer trying to devise a method of escape against Brian St. John. Now, that were Dick Murdoch or King Kong Brody, I guarantee you they'd have a method of escape. St. John's hair, he'll only be missing a few strands probably.
No doubt.
Or as Ollie Hofstetter points out, we could see a fist flying through the air any second. Murdoch and Brody. Be a rather devastating tag team combination too, wouldn't they? If they could get along. Some pretty explosive personalities there. You both know that wrestling's a one-man sport. Individual contractors. You're on your own. It's what you do. Yourself that counts. Sure, when Andre and Rocky Johnson were beaten by Murdoch and Flair, it went down in the books as a team victory. But you heard Murdoch up there. Flair might as well not even been there, even though Flair got the pin over Rocky Johnson. Murdoch did it all by himself.
Nobody in this world but Murdoch.
And I'm sure if you talked to Ric Flair, you'd have the same description. Murdoch wasn't even there. Flair did it all by himself.
You gotta like this Murdoch, I'll tell you.
Well, like him or dislike him, you can hardly ignore him, I'll guarantee you that. Brian St. John twists on the head of Mike Boyer. Boyer finally having made it to his feet, but still not able to escape the side headlock. Boyer reaches up for St. John's tights. St. John reapplies the headlock with a bit of a jolt, and Tangaro slaps Boyer's hands away from the tights of Brian St. John. Now Boyer tosses St. John to the ropes. St. John leapfrogs over the top. Boyer waiting and flips St. John. Good move by Mike Boyer. Good move by Brian St. John. That, my friends, is what you call quickness. Boyer managed to flip St. John, but St. John took the bounce, came up quickly, was up even quicker than Boyer, and quickly was on top of Boyer with the side headlock. So the problem is still the same for Mike Boyer. How to get out and stay out of the side headlock applied by Brian St. John. Boyer with his wrist up underneath the jaw of St. John, but as you can see, there's not really much pressure there. St. John truly in command at this point. St. John content at this point to apply pressure with the side headlock. Boyer now twists around on the chin a little bit, trying to do something to throw St. John off balance. Anything to make it a little easier to get out of this side headlock. Boyer strains, manages to get into a sitting position, but can't sustain it. St. John too strong. Boyer says he pulled my hair. St. John and Tangaro both tell Boyer no.
10 minutes left, 10 minutes.
No falls yet in the battle between Brian St. John and Mike Boyer. Boyer at least on his feet now. Still applying pressure against the chin of St. John. Boyer forces St. John to the ropes, and a break will be required here. Boyer takes advantage of St. John, bounces him off the ropes, catches him with a knee lift, and that one hurt. That one caught St. John a bit by surprise, and it knocked the wind out of Brian St. John. Boyer lifts St. John and drops St. John's stomach first into the knee. Boyer mounts the ropes for an atomic drop. Oh, a flying elbow smash off the ropes by Mike Boyer. And that's it. Mike Boyer has the first fall with a flying elbow drop, catching St. John when he bounced off the ropes, catching St. John by surprise, nailing him with a knee lift to the stomach, and then Boyer mounted the ropes, dove off those ropes with the elbow drop. Mike Boyer has one fall that belongs to him. Here's Mickey.
In 8 minutes and 38 seconds, the winner of the first fall, Mike Boyer.
Brian St. John had the edge, but Mike Boyer has the first fall. St. John was dominating the action with his side headlock, but Boyer managed to score the flying elbow drop, and now Mike Boyer owns the first fall of a most falls to curfew battle. St. John was able to use the respite to regain his win. He took a hard knee lift to the stomach. Truthfully, I think the knee lift to the stomach was as much the reason St. John was pinned as the elbow drop off the ropes, although that elbow drop was pretty effective. Hip toss by Boyer. Elbow drop by Mike Boyer. He's trying to make it 2 in a row over Brian St. John. St. John, though, threw off Boyer, and St. John fights back. He has to, because if he goes down 2 falls to none with the time remaining, well, the odds will be terrifically against him. Drop kick by St. John. It was a beauty, too. Boyer knocked head over heels. Boyer wants a little mercy. St. John's not in the mood for it. Flying mare. Stomp to the forehead by Brian St. John. St. John hoists Boyer with a body slam. Knee drop to the chest by Brian St. John, and St. John tries to tie this match at a fall apiece, but Boyer's not even down for a count of 1. Back to the side headlock, and St. John tries to fall back into the good pattern he had going in the first fall, working with the side headlock. I would think if in trying to escape this hold Boyer throws St. John to the ropes, Brian will be a lot more cautious coming off, although it's hard to be cautious. You're hitting the ropes, you're coming off at full speed. It's probably as dangerous a time as any wrestler can face, bouncing off the ropes, because you never know where your opponent will be or what he might do. If you can score the flying tackle, wonderful. It works well. You've got momentum behind you. A flying tackle can be very effective. But on the other hand, if your opponent is up quickly and thinking sharply, can be a little bit dangerous coming off those ropes, as Brian St. John found out when he lost the first fall to Mike Boyer. Boyer gets to his feet. Boyer can play it a little bit cautious, actually, with that one fall edge. They're on the ropes. Tanguero wants a break. There's that knee by Boyer again. St. John, though, lashes back at Mike Boyer. Knee lift to the stomach by Brian St. John. Flying mare by Brian. And then Brian hooks Boyer's head. Brian St. John's a young wrestler who's coming very quickly. We saw him here about a little bit over a year ago in St. Louis. He was raw, he was green, had to expect that. He'd been wrestling a little bit less than a year. But in that past year, he's gained a lot of experience, and he's had a number of features throughout the Midwest. He's been getting high spots on different programs throughout the Midwest and the South. He's coming quickly.
5 minutes left.
Flying head scissors by Brian St. John. Boyer was going to try and catch St. John and slam him, but that time it was St. John who outsmarted Boyer. Brian catching Boyer's head, flipping him over, and now the side headlock again by Brian St. John. Boyer rubs that forearm across the cheek and across the face of Brian St. John. Boyer spent a lot of time in this position during the match, but that doesn't really matter much as long as Boyer has the only fall. Boyer trying to push back the head of Brian St. John. You can see where that forearm's underneath the jaw, where the pressure's being applied against St. John. Boyer at least manages to turn off his back, and that's a good start for Boyer. St. John rakes the boot across the head of Mike Boyer. The side headlock again, and down goes Mike Boyer. One thing we notice is that Boyer is certainly not getting up as quickly as he was earlier in the bout. That side headlock, a simple hold though it appears, it's starting to take its toll on Boyer. He's getting a little bit foggy up there, maybe seeing a few cobwebs, not moving quite as quickly. The side headlock is starting to take its toll on Mike Boyer, and I think St. John can sense that, and that's why he keeps going back to the head and to the neck. Boyer grabs St. John's hair. St. John whipped to the ropes. Boyer flips St. John up and over. Oh, and St. John was waiting when Boyer dove at him. Side headlock again. And Boyer back where he started. Boyer reached for St. John's hair. The referee slapped it away, of course. The only problem now with the way that St. John is grinding down Mike Boyer is that time might be running out on him. He may have to open up, even though the side headlock is proving very, very effective for him. He might get to a point and find out that Boyer is too strong to be worn down in the short time remaining.
Get him, Greg, get him!
Boyer with a punch to the stomach, and then St. John's hurled to those ropes again. St. John comes off, drives an elbow to the ribs of Boyer. Another flying tackle by Brian St. John. Side headlock by St. John, but Boyer forces St. John to the ropes. I think Boyer's neck's getting pretty sore by this point. Oh, an elbow smash missed. Drop kick by St. John. Side headlock, and once more. Boyer's sore neck and head are going to take some more punishment from Brian St. John.
2 minutes left.
2 minutes remaining, and Brian St. John is rapidly going to find out he just can't afford to concentrate on this side headlock anymore. He's going to have to open up. Boyer forces his way to the feet. St. John twists Boyer on. This time it's Boyer making the trip to the ropes. Oh, St. John tagged by a hard kick from Boyer. St. John tried to open up, and it cost him. Elbow drop by Boyer. St. John rattled by Mike Boyer. Boyer slams St. John's head into the top turnbuckle. Boyer again drives St. John into the top turnbuckle. Brian St. John down 1 fall to none and in trouble now as time is running out.
1 minute left.
Body slam by Boyer. Boyer going for the pin. Count of 1, 2. St. John throws off Boyer. Time fast escaping, and it looks like victory's going to belong to Mike Boyer. Oh, St. John gets behind Boyer. Side suplex by Brian St. John. St. John covers Boyer, and that's it. There's the fall that ties this match at 1 fall apiece. No time remaining. The rest period would eat up the remaining 11 seconds. That was all that was left in the curfew, 11 seconds, and Brian St. John, in the nick of time, has snatched a draw, and that's really a moral victory. Boyer looked like he had it all sewn up, but Brian St. John makes it a draw.
And winning the fall, referee Joe Tangera declares the match a draw.
Brian St. John and Mike Boyer. The match ends a draw. St. John coming up with a fall with only 11 seconds remaining in the curfew. That makes the match a draw. Earlier today we saw King Kong Brody record a very impressive victory over Ted Reynolds, and Dick Murdoch was equally impressive as he knocked off Steve Howell. David Bonari came up with a win. He pinned Gene Stevens. Now don't forget to join us every weekend right here on KPLR TV, Channel 11 for Wrestling at the Chase, late Saturday night and Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Be sure you're here again next weekend.